They sent 8 professional killers to end Bumpy Johnson. Only one came back carrying his own death warrant. Late 1952, Harlem's winter streets were slick with ice and secrets. The Genovese family, now under Vito Genovese's iron grip after betraying Frank Costello, had grown tired of Bumpy Johnson's quiet independence. Harlem's numbers rackets were too rich, too black-controlled, too untouchable. Genovese wanted it all. He sent 8 of his best, seasoned hitmen from the Bronx and Brooklyn, armed with silenced pistols, knives, and orders to make it quick and clean. No survivors, no witnesses. Hit Bumpy in his own territory, send a message to every other colored operator, the Italians own New York. They crossed the bridge at midnight, 8 shadows in 2 black sedans. Only one made it back across, bleeding, broken, carrying a single envelope. Inside, Bumpy's handwritten note. Next time send more. The Genovese family never tried Harlem again. By 1952, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson had ruled Harlem for nearly 2 decades. He didn't shout or strut, he moved like smoke. Policy banks paid fair, protection was real. White gangsters got their cut only because Bumpy allowed it. After Dutch Schultz's fall in 1935, Bumpy struck a deal with Lucky Luciano. Harlem stays Harlem. The Genovese family, still under Costello then, took a percentage. Bumpy kept control. But Vito Genovese wanted more. After his 1946 betrayal of Luciano and the 1957 attempt on Costello, Vito was paranoid, power-hungry, and ruthless. He saw Bumpy as a loose end. One meeting in a downtown hotel sealed it. Vito slammed his fist. Harlem belongs to us. Johnson forgets who runs this city. 8 men were chosen that night. They were Genovese's elite. Tommy the Blade Russo, knife specialist, no fingerprints. Joey Quick Marino, driver, getaway expert. Sal the Hammer Fontana, enforcer, loved baseball bats. Vinny Ghost Pellegrino, silent shooter. Frankie Two Guns DeLuca, dual-wielded pistols. Mikey the Torch Rossi, arson backup. Carlo Eyes Lombardi, scout, perfect vision. Tony the Rat Bianchi, the one who talked too much. All experienced, all loyal to Vito, all certain Harlem would fold. They met in a Bronx warehouse. Vito's instructions: make it look like a robbery gone bad, no survivors, bring me his head if you can. They laughed. 8 against 1, easy money. Midnight, December 1952, 2 sedans rolled over the Triborough Bridge. Harlem waited, brownstones dark, jazz clubs humming low, street corners alive with eyes. Bumpy knew they were coming. His network, barbers, doormen, numbers runners, had whispered for days. Genovese men asking questions, cars with jersey plates. Bumpy didn't run, he prepared. He called his lieutenants to a back room in the Red Rooster, laid out the plan. No guns in the streets, too many innocents, we use Harlem itself. Chapter 4, the first ambush, the blade falls. The 8 split, 4 to Bumpy's apartment on 120th, 4 to his favorite club. Tommy the Blade led the apartment team. They crept up the fire escape. Inside, darkness, a single light in the kitchen. Tommy kicked the door, empty room. Then the light snapped on. 3 of Bumpy's men waited, razors out. Tommy slashed first, missed. They didn't. His body was found in an alley, throat cut, razor still in hand. Message carved on his chest, wrong address. The second team hit the club. Sal the Hammer, Vinny Ghost, Frankie Two Guns, Mikey the Torch. They burst in during a slow jazz number. The band kept playing. Patrons scattered, then froze. From the shadows, Bumpy's crew positioned perfectly. No shots fired, knives, bats, fists. Sal's hammer never swung. Vinny's silencer jammed. Frankie's guns were taken before he drew. Mikey tried to run, tripped over a bar stool. 4 bodies dragged out back. Found at dawn, arranged like a poker hand, dead man's hand. Carlo Eyes Lombardi was the lookout, perched on a rooftop across from Bumpy's building. He saw nothing, heard nothing, until a hand clamped over his mouth. Bumpy's nephew, young, quick, whispered, "Eyes don't see everything." Carlo woke up tied in a basement, interrogated gently, told everything, released at sunrise, missing both eyes. He stumbled to a payphone, called Vito. 7 dead, I'm the only one left. Tony the Rat Bianchi outlasted them all. When the others had fallen, some to bullets, some to betrayal, some simply to the weight of their own fear, he remained. For weeks he had sheltered in the damp basement beneath a crumbling row house on the edge of Harlem, surrounded by moldy crates and the faint metallic taste of old blood in the air. A single bulb hung naked from the ceiling, flickering whenever a truck rumbled past overhead. He survived on canned peaches, stale crackers, and the stubborn belief that someone would eventually come for him. Every night he cleaned the same .38 revolver, counting bullets he no longer expected to fire. Pick up, he told himself, just wait for pickup. Mid-morning brought the sound he had dreaded and half hoped for, the slow, deliberate creak of the basement door at the top of the narrow wooden stairs. Dust drifted down in thin shafts of light. Footsteps followed, measured, unhurried, only one set. Tony pressed his back against the cold concrete wall, heart slamming so hard he felt it in his teeth. He raised the revolver with both hands, the barrel trembling like a leaf in wind. When the figure finally appeared at the bottom of the stairs, Tony almost squeezed the trigger out of pure reflex. But he froze. It was Bumpy Johnson, alone. Bumpy descended the last few steps without haste, his coat open, hands visible and empty. He looked older than Tony remembered, the lines deeper around his eyes, yet the same quiet authority clung to him like smoke. He crossed the small space and sat on an overturned crate directly across from Tony, close enough that the scent of his cologne, something sharp and expensive, cut through the mildew. Tony kept the gun leveled at Bumpy's chest, finger curled inside the trigger guard, but the shaking had grown worse. "Shoot," Bumpy said, voice low and even, almost conversational. "Or listen." Tony's breath came in shallow bursts. The barrel wavered. He wanted to pull the trigger to end the waiting, to prove he was not the coward they all said he was, but something in Bumpy's calm gaze pinned him in place. Slowly, reluctantly, Tony lowered the revolver until it rested against his thigh. He listened. For 10 minutes, Bumpy spoke. No threats, no raised voice, just words laid out plain and deliberate. He spoke of respect, the kind that had to be earned street by street, block by block. He spoke of Harlem not as a territory to be claimed, but as a living thing with its own memory and its own laws. He spoke of what happened when outsiders, men from across the bridges, men who wore silk suits and spoke in boardrooms, forgot whose ground they stood on, whose children played in those streets, whose blood had already soaked the pavement to keep it theirs. The words were measured, almost gentle, yet each one landed like a stone dropped into still water. When he finished, Bumpy reached inside his coat. Tony tensed, but Bumpy drew out only a plain manila envelope, sealed, no markings. He held it out across the dim space between them. "Deliver this to Vito," Bumpy said. "Tell him the deal stands. Harlem pays its percentage, but it stays Harlem." Tony stared at the envelope as though it might bite. His throat worked, but no sound came. After a long moment, he reached out with his free hand and took it. The paper felt cool and ordinary against his sweating palm. Bumpy stood, adjusted his coat, and started back up the stairs without another word. The door creaked again at the top, then clicked shut. Silence returned. Tony remained seated for several minutes, the revolver now limp in his lap, the envelope resting on his knee. Tears came without warning, hot, silent, running down the sides of his nose. He did not sob. He simply sat and let them fall until the basement light caught the wet tracks on his cheeks. Then slowly he rose. He crossed the bridge that afternoon. The city noise swallowed him as he walked, horns, shouts, the clatter of steel and tires. No one stopped him, no one followed. He carried the envelope inside his jacket, pressed close to his chest like a fragile promise. He was still alive. Against every expectation, against every rule he had ever known, Tony the Rat Bianchi walked off that bridge alive. Tony arrived at Vito's compound shaking, handed the envelope. Vito opened it. Inside, a single photo of Tony blindfolded, alive. And a note in Bumpy's handwriting. 7 lessons, 1 survivor. Next time send more. Or don't send at all. Vito stared, then burned the note. He never spoke of Harlem again. No more hitmen, no more demands. Bumpy Johnson continued ruling his kingdom, quietly, unbowed, until his death in 1968. Harlem stayed free. Because when the Genovese family sent 8 assassins, only one came back. And he didn't come back to fight. He came back to bow.